Happy Star Wars Day, ladies and gentlemen, and may the 4th be with you. And with you, and you, and you, and you, not you, but definitely you guys. And certainly me, your host Griever, as always. And what are we talking about for Star Wars Day? Well, let me tell you right now, fair warning, this is unscripted as hell. I've been spending all afternoon trying to make a Star Wars video. And even though I'm going to tell you right now, this is a clunky video, this is unscripted, this has no plot, rhyme, or reason to it, I'm still unhappy with how they're all turning out. So today I'm trying to keep it simple. At this point in the afternoon, I'm trying to keep it simple. The reason for this, guys, May the 4th sorta came up on me right behind me without me even realizing it. As far as I was concerned, it was still April yesterday. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my marbles here. So that being the case, I really wanted to make some Star Wars content, of course, for May the 4th and Revenge of the 5th and etc. Return of the 6th, all those fun dates, you know. And let's start with that. Let's start with that. Star Wars Day. Now, we all know it's really Star Wars Month. And in fact, is Star Wars even limited to something like time? It is timeless. The original trilogy, the masterpiece that is the greatest film trilogy ever made. Are we seriously going to say that it's limited to a few days in a year? Of course not. When parents are always asked by their children and they say, why is there a Father's Day and a Mother's Day, but there is no Kids Day? The answer is every day is Kids Day. I'm sure you've all heard that one before. And I would like to make an amendment to that. Every day is not Kids Day, but every day is Star Wars Day. That you're goddamn right, because Star Wars is one of the greatest phenomenal creations, one of the greatest masterpieces of all time. And I've tried to think of what I'm going to talk about here. I've got no time, no script, and I'm running out of time. I was like, should I talk about The Force Unleashed or Pod Racer or something like that? Should I talk about The Mandalorian? Should I talk about my expectations for the Kenobi series, which is so hype? Should I talk about, should I do a tier list? But I don't want to oversaturate the tier list. I was like, I could rank my favorite Jedi and talk about them or something. Then I decided to keep it simple. Keep it extremely simple. It's May the 4th. Let's talk about the 4th movie, but technically the first movie, but episode 4. See what I did there? Let's keep it simple. Let's talk about the thing that started it all. Let's talk about the movie from 1977. And yes, I mean the one from 1977, not that special edition crap. I mean the one that I still to this day don't own the actual DVD or Blu-ray of the original trilogy of Star Wars for the fact that that's not Star Wars. I need to hook up my VCR every single time I want to watch Star Wars. It's very annoying. But that being the case, let's jump into talking just about Star Wars. I'm trying to keep this consistent. I've been recording all afternoon, and I haven't been happy with anything that I have recorded. So now I'm trying to keep it a little more simple. Just a little more simple. And it doesn't get more simple than the basic, campy first movie that is Star Wars A New Hope. Yes, we all know it was called Star Wars, then episode 4 blah, 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 was tacked on later, blah, blah, blah. This is not the top 10 things you did not know about Star Wars A New Hope. Trust me, everybody knows that top 10 list. There's very little secrets anymore, guys. Not a YouTube video fact would surprise me anymore. I'm sorry, it just won't. Unless we get new information from like Harrison Ford or George Lucas or whomever, as of 2021 May, unless they bring out a snippet that's never been mentioned since 77, then trust me, we all know. We all know. So, anyways, point of the matter is that 1977 came out, Star Wars came out. Apparently a very difficult production to get off the ground, which I've never understood. Same when I watched the making of Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson had a hell of a time getting Lord of the Rings off the ground. Production companies have no faith, man. They have zero faith. They're all about the money, and they never want to take a gamble. It is a very upsetting thing to see. It truly is, because creative minds like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson and all these great directors and stuff are literally pulling their hair out, always trying to become, because before they are the name where people are like, okay, George Lucas is in charge, a license to print money. Peter Jackson's making a movie, license to print money. You know, until they become that license to print money guy, nobody has any faith in them. They don't see the creativity, they only see this. It's very upsetting, and it's one of the big problems with the film industry, as we know. But that being said, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about 1977. Introducing the greatest on-screen villain of all time. C-3PO. No, of course not. We are introducing the greatest villain of all time, Darth Vader. Not only intimidating for young children, Not only one of my favorite Sith Lords of them all, one of my favorite characters, both the Anakin Skywalker himself and Darth Vader, you know, the one and the same, but both versions, if you will, of him. He is, in my opinion, the greatest. Some people told people like Norman Bates and stuff like that as the greatest, or Hannibal Lecter as the greatest on-screen villain of all time and stuff. I would fundamentally disagree for a couple of reasons, but the easiest one to say is neither Norman Bates, I would argue, nor Hannibal Lecter could so easily, if you had a 1 second frame, so 28 frames, roughly, I think it's like 30 frames per second. Yeah, so, but it like breaks down weird. But anyways, let's say you had just a 1 second shot. You could show one picture, right? So you only have that 1 second. So you're not even going to see any real movement. Darth Vader would be recognized right away, I would argue, by more people than Norman Bates and Hannibal Lecter. Though, of course, most like cinephiles and stuff, we would all recognize them. People who love movies and have seen these movies, of course. And a lot of people would know them. But I would argue that more people would recognize Darth Vader. And the other thing is that here is the true test. Black screen, one note for 1 second. Everybody's going to recognize Darth Vader. That one breath he takes in 1 second. He doesn't even need to do the second part of the breathing. Just the... Everybody would know. Be like, Darth Vader. This is a villain so incredible, so culturally relevant to every media, to society, to the cultural impactfulness of the world, that he can be recognized in 1 second by sight or sound separately. That's how incredible this guy is. Darth Vader is definitely one of the greatest on-screen villains of all time, and in my personal opinion, the greatest. Because not only was his appearance intimidating for children, but it was also intimidating for adults. Because at the time, the war had only ended 32 years prior. And for those of you who don't know, once again, this is not a top 10 fact list of the greatest blah, 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 blah. But the Darth Vader helmet based off a Nazi helmet. So it struck fear into people, both young and old. It was intimidating. They went for terror. They went for fear. They went for the things that Darth Vader was supposed to represent. Hate, fear, intimidation. And they succeeded in making everyone uncomfortable. And that was the goal. And it succeeded so brilliantly. Now, of course, his look is just iconic, and a lot of people look at it as badassery and such. But still, to this day, back then, that's the way it felt for people in the theaters. For those of them that could recognize that subtle part about what was it that made them feel like actually intimidated or a little uncomfortable. And that was the trick. It was the look. They spent so much time perfecting to make sure that Darth Vader's look was scary. And they succeeded. And now to this day, he is, as I said, one of the greatest villains. And this movie introduced Darth Vader to us. James Earl Jones, and of course played by David Prowse. In James Earl Jones' voice. Iconic as hell. His anger showcases through much more heavily in this film than some other films, especially in the opening scenes. And what they did for him in Rogue One was absolutely incredible. But also just here in this film alone, he was a presence to be feared, to be recognized, to be afraid of. And I love that aspect that was brought forefront to this, because still one of my favorite villains of all time. Now, the other things that this film brought us, of course, was the special effects and what it did for the cinema, for film industry, for making movies as a whole. It was groundbreaking. The sound, the sound quality, the sound editing, the whole THX thing, all that stuff. And then, of course, the special and visual effects. And the idea of the creativity, pushing the boundaries. As George Lucas says himself in an interview with Leonard Maltin, Wookiees and robots. It was unlike anything anybody had ever seen before. And he was not wrong. And it inspired such a huge generation of people. Like, in the same vein that people who create fantasy today, whether it's video games, manga, movies, books, whatever, the fantasy genre was permanently and definitively influenced by the creation by J.R.R. Tolkien of The Lord of the Rings. That cannot be denied, and most fantasy authors will at least acknowledge that. Some will say, no, 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 it had nothing to do with it, and they're full of shit. But for the most part, the inspiration and what he did for the fantasy genre back in the 30s and 40s revolutionized the fantasy genre for people of today. And Star Wars is almost a sister or a brother companion for that, doing that same effect for the film industry. I would love to know how many small and big time animators, film producers, directors, writers, special effects artists, and the lot of them. I would love to know how many of them were teenagers or kids or young adults who were inspired back in 77 or in 1980 or in 83 and such, when Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi also were released. How many of them were inspired by what they saw in these films and went on for their passion, for their love? Was this the movie that finally tipped them to follow into that industry? Was this what inspired that X creation or X passion? I guarantee you that many that are still in the film industry today making some of your favorite films were inspired by these films. And that is just an incredible feat to me, that something can be created that is so obviously, which once again, zero faith given. George Lucas said nearly pulled his hair out trying to create this damn thing. He was borderline insane by the time it finally came out. And even when it did come out, limited theater release. That's how crazy this was. Limited theater release. It wasn't until, so the producers, the company, nobody really still had faith in this film, even though they let him finally get off the ground and make the damn thing fully. And that is insane. Like, looking back, you just have to sit back and laugh. It's crazy. They had the same problem with Peter Jackson and Miramax. Very little faith, too many restraints, and it was insane. Looking back now, you would laugh, oh, how is that even possible? Like, how would you not just have faith that this would become a thing? But no, nobody had the faith. And now, but ever since 77, it proved everyone wrong. It became something so incredible. And once again, one of my favorite films of all time. To this day, I still think that it's one of the weakest films. But then, after I say that, and then I go back and watch it, I find myself, I can't just put it on in the background. Oh, I want to see this scene. Oh, I want to see that scene. Half an hour into putting the movie on, I'm laying on the couch watching the whole damn thing. So clearly there's something in this movie that keeps me drawn in. I always think, okay, it's the campiest one, it had the lowest budget, there was a lot of clunky dialogue, there was a lot of this, there was a lot of that, it's not the best of the films, of course, lower budgets, etc., etc. Clearly Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi are the better of the films. Of course they are, of course they are. But A New Hope is still an amazing film. Every single time I think, okay, it's a little cheesy, it's a little campy, whatever. Then I sit back and, as I said, I can't tear my eyes away. I still enjoy the film to this day. And that's what it means to be timeless, guys. That's what it means to have something timeless. Timeless is not, it's remembered because, you know, timeless can mean different things to different people. But timeless isn't just because people mention it or talk about it or whatever. Timeless, to me, is something that you can see once or 1,000 times and still find enjoyment out of it. You know, there are movies, we all know them. There are TV series, books, movies, things that we've read or seen or watched that, okay, it was either you didn't like it, or it's like, yeah, it was okay, but you don't want to watch it again, right? Or things that if you never saw it again, you'd be fine. You'd be okay with it. Star Wars is not one of those films for the majority of people who see it. Now, that's not everybody, of course. There are some people who hate Star Wars. Yeah, those people are guys, we don't need to talk to those people. Those people are in a different sort of group, you know. We just be nice, put a smile on, and we just ignore them and their wrongness. But in all honesty, no, there are going to be people that are not going to like Star Wars. And that's okay, as long as they recognize the impact that Star Wars had on probably some of the things that they like or that they have enjoyed, or movies that they like of today may or may not have been inspired by Star Wars. Certainly the film industry as a whole was revolutionized by the making of these movies. So that just can't be denied. But yeah, there's always going to be that. But in all honesty, as I said, when I go back and I see some of the simplicities, like the Force in this movie, the Force was a much more simple concept. Actually, as the original trilogy as a whole, really, the Force was a much more simplistic concept. And it eventually advanced and, bigger and badder and better. Of course, that's always what happens. I mean, look at any film franchise, look at any storyline. The explosions need to be bigger. The character development needs to be more. The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise needs to be grandiose. Everything needs to be bigger, badder, and better. Just look at an easy example is the Fast and the Furious franchise. It was about street racing for a quarter of a mile. Then it was about drag racing. Now they're driving tanks and blowing up submarines. So, seriously, it gets out of hand because you always need to up the ante. The Force, unfortunately, in some ways suffered because of this and became a little overcomplicated in some ways. But I really appreciate this film for its simplicity. It was easy to just explain it away as the Force is just an energy field that surrounds us and binds the galaxy together, and some people can tap into it. It was a very simple explanation. Obi-Wan and Yoda explaining it in their movies respectively quite easily as an easy concept for people to understand, to make it simple, to explain away a lot of the more crazier feats that we see in the films. And it makes total sense. And Grand Moff Tarkin even says, a sad old religion. That one line for a lot of people just made it summed up. Okay, so this is basically like religion. Well, this is sort of like Old Testament where people could still do crazy things. You know what I mean? Like for a lot of people, these easy lines to simply simplify the Force actually made it an easy concept to understand back then for a lot of folks. And I liked that. I really liked the Force in its simplicity back then. It's something we're never going to be able to retroactively go backwards towards, but at least here it can still be appreciated for what it was. One of the funny things, though, that I really love about these films is the concept of when people, as I said, they poke fun at some of the dialogue, like the whole, moisture evaporators, or I was going to go with my friends and pick up some power converters, and people, and I just have, let's have a collective laugh. Let's have a laugh at this, at people who make fun of that line. You know why they make fun of that line? Because there's nothing else to make goddamn fun of. This movie is amazing. Yeah, I said it. Literally, if you have to poke fun at one badly delivered line from a 1977 film with a low budget, really, what else was wrong with the film then? Seriously, most films in the 70s and in the 80s, you can make fun of entire scenes, characters, ridiculous concepts. Seriously, you can just go out on a limb and tear a movie down. Just watch CinemaSins. But the thing of the matter is here is that people poke at that, and I just find it hilarious because I'm like, seriously, if that's all you have to complain about, I mean, whatever. I never found the line that funny. It was only until the internet came around and I started, and it grew and grew and grew and stuff, and I realized that a lot of people complained about it, that I recognized that that line is a little cheesy. I never really noticed it before. It sounded fine to me for my entire childhood and my adult life, so weird. But yeah, things like that were always a case. But the other thing that people complain about, and the funny thing is that they poke fun at this movie for, is the inconsistencies. Don't you find that? So many people complain about the retcons. And there are. Let's be honest. They try their best to explain them away. I told you the truth, but from a certain point of view. Or, I thought I could train him just as well as Yoda. Well, that was never on the table, Qui-Gon Jinn's never mentioned. This is never mentioned. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. That's all these things definitely were retconned later. Like some of them a little smoother, some of them just blatant. But what I find hilarious is that fans and non-fans alike make this movie the one at fault. Have you ever noticed that? Not everybody, but a lot of people blame lines in this movie. Not the lines that retcon this movie, but this movie's lines. As though this movie is at fault for knowing what was going to be said in 2003 in Revenge of the Sith. 2005. Whenever that movie came out. It was the 2000s. But yeah, does anybody else find that funny? Because I find that funny. I really do. A lot of people poke at the movie in 2000, you know, in Phantom Menace, or they poke at things in Return of the Jedi or whatever. They literally blame a movie from 77 for things said in 83. It's like, well, wait a minute now. That's not the way it works. Like, you can blame George Lucas, you can blame whoever wrote the scripts for the later movies, but aren't technically, this didn't retcon anything. This movie has no continuity flaws because it was the facts back in 77. What happens later is irrelevant. Up until 77, this movie did not have a continuity error. So I always laugh at people that poke at A New Hope as the continuity problem, when it's not the problem. It's the script writers for blatantly, either knowingly or unknowingly, not adhering to what was said in the movie in 77. It's not Alec Guinness' fault. It's not James Earl Jones' fault. It's not Mark Hamill's fault. It's none of the guys who delivered any of the continuity lines' fault. It's literally, you know, so I always found that really funny. But yeah, I think I've gone on really honestly long enough. This is more of a ramble video just to appreciate Star Wars. As I said before, watch it all the time. Special editions suck. They really do. I find them almost unwatchable. I can bear with Empire Strikes Back more so, and same with Return of the Jedi. Though Return of the Jedi has some serious problems. But with the special edition, I mean. But A New Hope is the one that I find one of the most unwatchable ones with the special edition. Too many changes, too many CGI effects, too much shit taking me out of the moment and reminding me that this isn't the movie that I love. So that's unfortunate. Trying to think of anything else I want to talk about. Alec Guinness' Obi-Wan was great. Mark Hamill. I love the entire cast. Blah, 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 blah. Let's think of something else. Oh, yeah. Han shot first. Of course he did. And, yeah. Yeah, just overall, what this movie did and what Star Wars is for so many people in a galaxy far, far away, in a galaxy close to your own home, this is something truly special. And not the special edition, but truly special. It really is, and it is for so many people. And I've always loved these films. I find them some of the greatest films that I've ever watched. They're definitely my favorite trilogy of all time. It's very difficult for me to say that with the Lord of the Rings trilogy coming out later in my life and me being a huge Lord of the Rings fan. The way I get around this is, and I've said this before on streams and stuff, the way I get around this is because I don't like to put one on top of the other. But what I like to say is that Lord of the Rings are the greatest pieces of literature ever written, and Star Wars is the greatest things ever put to the big screen. That's the way I sort of get around a little bit of a loophole, so I don't have to put one on top of the other, really. Because I definitely love the Lord of the Rings trilogy as well. But yeah, Star Wars for me, it's something I grew up with. It's something I've always loved, and it's always been a part of from the time that I could remember, you know, in my childhood, all the way till now, and I still love it to this day. Even when certain things like The Last Jedi end up happening, I still have faith that goodness can come out of it. I didn't really mind Rise of Skywalker as much as some people, and you know, The Mandalorian is incredible, and the Kenobi series coming out. Hayden Christensen is coming back, and whoever the hell blamed him for that shit, like, I feel so bad. He was a teenager, guys. First off, he was a teenager. Well, this isn't a ramble about that, but yeah, Hayden Christensen did very little wrong. I mean, Jesus Christ, hand Tom Hanks the sand lines. See how well they get delivered. Seriously. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Like, hand Robert De Niro or Al Pacino. Humphrey Bogart couldn't deliver those lines properly. They were just bad lines. But yeah, so either way, I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk about Star Wars. It is May the 4th. I wanted to get something out for it. I know this is a big ramble video, just jumping all over the place, talking about Darth Vader one moment, talking about what it does for the film industry another, complaining about people bitching about the prequels. I mean, it's just a whole thing, right? But I tried to make some more coherent videos. I tried to talk about some other stuff, and just nothing was really working out. And I've been at this for like 2 hours now. I'm wasting my daylight here, which I prefer this lighting rather than the overhead lighting that I have currently. So, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about this. But let me know your fondest memory of Star Wars. See, my fondest memories are my childhood, watching the VHS tapes with my dad introducing me to things like this, introducing me to the Terminator movies, introducing me to Star Wars, introducing me to, you know, some of the B movies like Top Gun and Days of Thunder and stuff. Like, there's a nostalgia component to it. There's a relationship component between me and my dad, our love of film and our love of these type of movies together. But also just in general, just the fact that this series has stayed with me for so long, and I have so many fond memories growing up with Star Wars, so many great memories of wanting to be a part of that universe, being just so many developments that have gone on in the past. Well, now a series that is well almost into its 50th year, right? Where is it? 77, 87, 97, 17. Yeah, so almost 50 years. Almost 50 years. Yeah, had to do quick mental math there. I don't know. See, I really am losing my marbles. But for a series that has gone on for so long, there's just so much to talk about. And I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time or mine, because I'm exhausted. My throat is just killing me from trying to do these recordings. So I'm glad I chose this topic, though, talking about the original film. You know, nearly tie. It had the potential to tie Ben-Hur for most amount of Oscars at the time back in '77. Actually nominated for 10. Did not win 10. Didn't get that close. I think it won like 6 or 7. But at the time, before Titanic and before The Return of the King, it was one of the ones that was actually had the opportunity to tie for #1 most amount of Oscars of a single film. That was incredible feats, and just everything about this is just. It's just so great. I could keep talking about different aspects of it, but I think we'll end the video here. Let me know your guys' fondest memories of just Star Wars in general. It doesn't have to be about the original trilogy. It doesn't need to be about the movies at all. Just tell me, what are your favorite aspects of Star Wars? What are your favorite memories involving Star Wars? Did you grow up with it? Did you see it later on in life? Do you actually not really get it? Are you more of a Trekkie? Because you're weird, but you're still more of a Trekkie than a Wars fan, right? I mean, it's totally up to you, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Tell me who your favorite Jedi is. Tell me who your favorite character is. Let me know what your fondest memory are. I always like to share. Let's grow this as a community. Let's have a conversation about one of the greatest masterpieces ever made. Let's talk about it. So anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's haphazard as hell, and I'll probably end up editing the shit out of this one in the end anyways, even though I'm always trying to do these 20, 30-minute videos in one take. I don't know why I try. I'm always messing stuff up, but either way, I keep trying. So thanks, guys, so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, of course, if you enjoyed the video. Let's get to 600 subscribers at the end of June. That's a good number. We're at like 540 something. So let's another 60 in over a month, right? Sometime in June, let's get to 600. Okay, that's the new goal, 600. So definitely drink responsibly as always. We'll see you back here next time. We'll probably see you tomorrow if I can get my ass off the ground and try to think of a good content video for May the 5th, which we all know what it is. Right? So, all right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will talk to you guys again. Star Wars forever. May the 4th be with you.